Are there any apologies? No
Leader.
apologies.
Yeah, sorry, Leader. Apologies from Councillor Richard Maynon.
Okay, Richard's not there.
No.
Fine. Okay.
I am here, Leader.
Oh.
I can hear-
I've just read the text, Richard. Sorry.
Okay, we've got 7 cabinet members. That's fine. Morning.
Leader, Bobby will be with us shortly. She just answered.
Right. Okay, we'll soon be on 8. Right. Second agenda item: declaration of interest. Gary, do you want to take us through that, please?
Yes, thanks, Leader. Members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in the business. What interest is to advise whether
Gary, can you switch the screen off, please, Gary?
All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate in any vote. If a personal or personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available online.
Okay, Tony, did you want to? Anyone wants to declare an interest? Tony?
Yeah, just to declare an interest on the school governor as a school governor on the school balances when it comes to it. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else?
Yeah, please, yeah, school governor, please.
Mark Young?
Meirig Davies, Ysgol Cymeriadol.
Meirig? Emrys?
Ysgol Borthyn ac Ysgol Benhyfryd fel Llywodraethwr.
Sorry, Leader, I've never, when we've had finance, I've never declared an interest as school governor in this before. And also as an LEA, I don't think I have to. Am I right, Gary?
The requirement is that if the business is likely to relate to or affect any of the interests that you have, then it's a personal interest. Because this is a general report about school balances, it would be a personal interest only and not a prejudicial interest because it's not about a specific school. As an local authority appointed governor, you have an exemption from having a prejudicial interest where school issues are concerned, but that doesn't arise here, so it's a personal interest only, and I suggest from an abundance of caution that school governors should declare a personal interest.
Thank you, Gary, I declare.
Okay, following that advice, are there any additional members wanting to declare an interest? Joan Butterfield declaring an interest. That's it, yeah. Good, okay, thank you for that. We'll now go to agenda item 3, urgent matters. And yes, there is an urgent matter that needs discussing today. It's not usual to have many urgent items at Cabinet unless they are quite unusual or there's an urgent need, obviously, and this is one of them due to the importance of the agenda. And this is about the levelling fund, which I believe all members have received the reports. This is urgent because of the funding opportunities that arise as a consequence of the levelling fund, the challenging and tight timeline which we need to work within, and the risks of not being able to support the recommendation. So I did feel it was right to call this as an urgent item. I will ask Emlyn at the end of this one to just give a quick overview of the levelling fund, but I do ask members to focus on the recommendations in hand and the area which is under consideration in this report. From a levelling fund perspective, this funding avenue is based on parliamentary constituencies, of which Denbighshire has 3. and this is about the constituency of Clwyd South and the potential revenue in partnership with Wrexham of up to £20 million of investment. This is substantial, and this will have a significant impact. It is Wrexham's intentions to submit the bid by the 18th of June 2021. We therefore, as a neighbouring authority with a shared MP, need to support this bid in order that an element of that funding opportunity is invested in Clwyd South, which is in Denbighshire. The risk of not committing to this bid and not discussing this as urgent matters is that the Dee Valley would lose out, and that simply would not be acceptable for us in the context of the approach by Westminster. The MP for this area, Simon Baines, is clear that he wants to support a major investment in Denbighshire, particularly in the Llangollen and Corwen area, and officers have been working with their counterparts in Wrexham in recent weeks in order to agree an approach which suits both Denbighshire and Wrexham. We also have consulted with local members, and last night there was a special Dee Valley Mag in order to understand their feeling on the levelling fund and for them to sort of advise the authority of possible projects that they'd like to be considered in the bid. This is a new way of working for us in Denbighshire. We have not ever worked directly with Westminster before. This has been quite challenging. The statements around levelling fund was made in March, and there was a deadline for investment, possible deadline for investment in June. So it's been quite difficult for us to work in this new environment, and I am pleased that officers within the authority have adapted their approach under quite a lot of pressure in order to better understand what the levelling fund means for us, and in terms of making sure that we do not lose out on this. So it has been a challenge. And also, probably I'd like to say at this point that it's a little bit disappointing in one way in that we haven't, as an authority, established a clear process for understanding how to evolve projects and what level of detail is required in order to make them potential projects for our constituencies. That said, the other two constituencies in Denbighshire, the Vale of Clwyd and Clwyd West, there is a bit more time in order to develop the projects there. And we are, as we speak, working with those MPs as well. When there's more clarity on the position around the other constituencies, we will, of course, engage with members in order that members can start to influence that debate as well. And the MPs are familiar with that. But in the meantime, and as a consequence of the tight deadline for Wrexham, we have to move on, and we have to adapt ourselves into getting this bid by the June deadline. So I hope members are comfortable with that. We are hoping also just to assure members of getting some a council workshop with the levelling fund as part of that workshop in order to understand how we best engage in that process. So that why this is a little bit under urgent items. We haven't got a choice. We've got to move forward. There is a bit more breathing space with the rest of Denbighshire. Okay, before I call the local members in, just to give us their views on the approach so far, I'll just ask Emlyn just to give a brief overview on the levelling fund for Denbighshire as a whole, please. Emlyn?
I think Emlyn's gone for a doctor's appointment, Hugh.
Yeah, of course, Leader, no problem with that. So, yeah, I mean, I think you've covered most of the ground. The Levelling Up Fund is something that UK governments have introduced. It's seen as a forerunner to the Shared Prosperity Fund, and the Shared Prosperity Fund itself is something that is going to replace European funding. There's no details yet on what the Shared Prosperity Fund would look like, but UK government has said that this Levelling Up Fund is a warm-up, if you like, for the Shared Prosperity Fund that is due to come. As the leader has said, it's based on constituency areas, so that's unusual for us, MP constituency areas, of which we have 3, one of which is entirely based within Denbighshire, which is, and I'm going to get this right this time, hopefully, the Vale of Clwyd. So that's Councillor James Davis MP. So his constituency area is entirely within Denbighshire. So in a way that makes it slightly easier to work with the MP and the local members and council in order to develop a scheme for the Vale of Clwyd. The other 2 constituency areas cut across borders, Clwyd West with Conway. So that would need to be a joint bid with Conway. And we are currently working with Conway officers and thinking about how to develop that. And then we've got Clwyd South, which is a joint bid with Wrexham. And that is the main focus of today. So we need to work with our neighbouring authorities and with the local MPs and of course our own members and cabinet and our own processes. So it's a different process to what we are used to in that regard. What is up for grabs is £20 million, up to £20 million per constituency area. So for the Vale of Clwyd, that would be £20 million, up to £20 million, that would all be Denbighshire. I'm going to turn my camera off as I'm talking. There we are. £20 million for that constituency. It was the whole of Denbighshire, but the other 2, of course, would need to be shared with our neighbouring authorities, and that's where the negotiations, etc., come in. And any bid that is submitted to UK government needs to come from local authorities. So local authority applicants. So where it's shared, you need to pick a lead authority. And in the kind of application forms that will go to UK government, you need to demonstrate that you've got local support and support of the local MP for what you're submitting. And then we don't quite know what the criteria of judgment will be at UK government, but it's a competitive process. So while each constituency has up to £20 million, it's not guaranteed that you will be successful. It is a bidding process, and there'll be a scoring system that UK government will have. And we wait to see what that is. The detail is light on that. So that is kind of a brief summary. And the reason we're here today is because the MP for Clwyd South, along with Wrexham, are keen to submit a bid by the 18th of June. What the UK government have said is, when they issued their guidance in March, is there'll be a number of different gateways by which local authorities can apply. So there'll be a number of different dates. The first date will be the 18th of June. If you don't submit by the 18th of June, then there'll be other dates later on when you'll be able to submit. And we believe that there's a date that will be announced in the not too distant future towards the end of this year where we can bid. And the MP is very keen in the Clwyd South that we get a bid in by the 18th of June. And as we want to support the MP in this process, because obviously we need the MP's support in order to get a better chance of success at UK government, we have worked very closely with Wrexham in order to put ourselves into a position where we can potentially get this bid in by the 18th of June. Wrexham are slightly ahead of us in that they've got a long-running project that they've had at the Trevor Basin, which is part of the World Heritage Site. And so they've developed a scheme that's got quite well developed. And we're now starting to develop our proposals in the Dee Valley in order to put this joint bid in. And why it's very challenging, and I do say very challenging, we are hopeful that we can meet that deadline and get an application in that is sufficient for the purposes of the submission date, and where we can still continue to work with our local members, etc., to develop those projects. So that's a brief overview, Leader. Obviously, there'll be lots of questions and we'll be happy to answer those questions, but I'm in your hands where you want to go next. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Graham. Okay, we'll get to the focus of the report now and ask Gareth to just give us the approach so far, and then I'll come to the local members first before cabinet members, if that's okay. So Gareth, you've been leading the charge on this from Denbighshire's perspective for the last few weeks. If you could just give us your thoughts so far, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. As Graham says, the driver for the bid for the deadline of 18th of June is the fact that Wrexham have a master plan already developed for the World Heritage Site, and in particular the Trevor Basin. So the kind of nucleus of the bid is focused around the World Heritage Site. So we Sorry,
Gareth, can you put the screen off, please?
Sorry, Leader. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. So we have worked close with Wrexham, as I say, and the nucleus of the bid is around the World Heritage Site. So there'll be 3 projects within the submission. Project 1 will be entirely Wrexham's, which is their Trevor Basin master plan. And we will have two projects within the overall theme. One will be around visitor movement elements within the 11-mile World Heritage Site. So we've kept that relatively vague because it allows us to bring in kind of a range of projects within Llangollen. And the third project will be around Corwen, and again that's visitor movements within Corwen and providing new entry points to the Dee Valley and the World Heritage Site. So again, and to enable us to get projects in Corwen into the overall bid, we're linking that to the World Heritage Site, and so that's the golden thread to the main project bid. We have engaged with the local community and local members in the south of the county. Thankfully, there were a number of projects in Llangollen that both local members and the town council had worked on. The main one is it's a project called the 4 Great Highways. And I don't know whether Councillor Graham Timms or Councillor Melvin Mile wants to mention briefly a bit about those projects. Do you want that level of detail, Leader?
I think just for the local members to just give us a quick update on their thinking on the projects which are emerging, which will be put forward. From you, Gareth, it's just the dialogue you've had with Wrexham and the slick headline of the project, which you could share with members.
Sorry, it's a working title. Slick headline. It's a working title. Perhaps we need to do some more work on it. But the current working title for the overarching project is called the Poncasiste Aqueduct and Canal World Heritage Site and Dee Valley Corridor Tourism Regeneration Scheme. It doesn't roll off the tongue, so we do need to try and work on that. But the purpose is to try and build an overarching picture to enable us to bring in projects both in Llangollen and Corwen, linking it to the World Heritage Site.
Okay, thank you for that, Gareth. Did you read that headline out, by the way?
No, I've memorised it.
Good. Okay, that's it for now, Gareth. I'll ask the local members for their thoughts following the conversation we had last night in the mag. And let's start with Graham Timms, please.
Diolch yn fawr. Thanks for letting us speak at this exciting time, because it's a huge opportunity that's coming to the area. Thanks as well for keeping us in touch with the MAG. We had a meeting yesterday, as you said, and it was a good, productive meeting where we threw a lot of really important ideas that had already been developed, but to see how they fit together. And can I say it was really refreshing to be in a meeting with local authority officers and yourself, Leader, where we weren't having our expectations lowered all the time because of the financial pressures that the county council is always under. So that was a really unusual situation to be in. I think one of the things it's taught us, particularly Mel and myself in Llangollen, is that having big ideas for your community is something that you have to have in mind all the time, and it's no good just sitting back waiting till money comes along before you start to develop ideas. And we have this idea, as Gareth has just mentioned, about linking with the World Heritage Site, and it does seem to fit very, very well with the funding that's coming in, because it's talking about regenerating the high streets, town centres, transport and access, and culture and heritage, and the project that we've been looking at in Llangollen has got all of those elements in it. 4 Great Highways is a much snappier title, I think, than the one that the whole project is linked, but it's actually linking. If you stand at the north end of Llangollen Bridge, you're actually at a very, very significant point in terms of transport development, because you've got Telford's A5, which is only 100 metres, a couple of 100 metres up the road, which runs through the town. You've got the ancient Llangollen Bridge, which has been a strategic crossing for hundreds and hundreds of years. And you've got Llangollen Wharf and the World Heritage Site, and you've also got the railway. So they're the 4 great highways that we're talking about. And yet you stand at that position and there's no real understanding about it, and there's no interpretation of it, and there's no place to welcome people and so on. So that's what we've been trying to develop. So we developed a project alongside other partners to have that investment in that particular area, to have the significance of that region brought across. So the idea was developed. We thought that it was going to be probably 4, 5, 10 years maybe before all the funding was able to be achieved, but no, this opportunity is really too good to miss. So yes, we do have a big project in Llangollen that we want considering. Lots of other smaller things that link into that as well, but that's the project that we're looking at. I noticed in the section about the financial implications, the 151 officer says this is a clearly unusual situation and extremely tight deadlines, and he says that the danger is that if we don't engage, then we're going to miss out on this investment for Denbighshire. I think the reputational damage is obviously something that we don't want to happen. Just a word of caution, though, going the other way. We don't want to just spend money recklessly to meet £20 million, because although the money tree seems to have been found, this money has got to be paid back, and we've got to remember about our future generations as well, and they may be the ones that might be paying for this in the long run, so we've got to have things that actually work for them as well. Go.
Thank you, Graham, for that. Miles?
Thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, I think it's an opportunity not to be missed. I won't go on as much as Graham because he's done the detail. There have been several projects put forward in the Clwyd South. Some are more advanced than others. I just feel that we need to support the officers to further develop these projects. Time is of the essence here, and in fact, there are only 17 more working days, including today, to get this job sort of in the bag, really. Obviously, we need to engage quickly with Wrexham and to push these projects forward. Unfortunately, the timing of this bid is not ideal. It's already put a huge amount of pressure on the officers and yourself, Leader. So I just think that I fully support this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mel. Okay, Al Hughes, please. Corwen.
Thank you, Leader. Thanks for inviting me to the meeting. Yeah, we're a bit late to the party in Corwen, but we've got some good projects to put forward. I've sent to Gareth. I think I've sent a few more to you last night, Gareth. I'm engaged with all you.
Al, can you put the screen off, please? If you could put the screen off, we can't hear you. Sorry about that.
All right, okay. Yeah, we're looking at developing the car park in Corwen and the train station, providing them with more funding. And we're looking at regenerating the town, We're looking at sprucing up the town with more benches and numerous other things that we're looking at. We've also put a project in that redeveloping the old pavilion site, and I've sent some information to Gareth on that one, which would be a big project, but it'd be a very popular one in the Corwen area, and it would boost tourism as well. The toilets in Corwen they've been looking at as well, and creating electrical charge points there, and just generally just sprucing the place up so people can park, get on the train, arrive in Corwen, not just arrive in Llangollen and come up. They can actually park in Corwen and go down to Llangollen and follow the Dee Valley that way as well. But just overall, just make it more attractive for people to come to Corwen, and that's what we're looking for. Mabon has said as well, he was looking at the connections between Corwen, Cynwyd and Llandrillo, because they'll be coming, looking at the train line. I know there's projects on that about developing the train line between Corwen and Llandrillo, which also be a good project to put forward as well.
Thank you, Alan, for that. And I just wanted Cabinet members just to get a flavour of the conversation that we had last night and the sort of opportunity which the local members see for their communities as well, which is what we're all about. So thank you to the local members for just giving it that update. That's helpful, really, and it gives the background in more practical terms. Okay, I'll open this up now to Cabinet members. First one is Bobby, please.
Thank you, Leader. Well, can I say straight away, any extra funding is welcome in these difficult and austere times. But I have to say, I do worry about the speed. You know, announced in March and 3 months to the first bid, you know, albeit we are very grateful. It's a tight time scale, and obviously this favours Wrexham because they are well advanced with their Trevor Basin scheme at the World Heritage site, which obviously I, as a member of that World Heritage team, I'm delighted that that is going ahead. But as Alan says, you know, we mustn't forget our South Denbighshire towns of Corwen and Llangollen, and it looks, according to my sort of very brief calculations, as if there might be around 5 million of Simon Bain's 20 million to spend there, which I am very grateful for. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him as yet, but I'm very pleased that he has thought of us within this £20 million that he's been allocated. Hopefully, with the other two bids of two MPs who also have 20 million each, we will do a little bit better in Denbighshire on those. But I'm glad about the focus on Corwen particularly, and Llangollen, and I would favour, if possible, any projects coming forward, put a focus on climate change projects, because I think that is very relevant to this day and age.
Thank you, Bobby, for that. That was very clear. Julian?
Yep, thank you, Leader. I'm very supportive of the recommendations that are in the paper in order to be able to draw down this funding in the Clwyd South area and the South Denbighshire area, and we need to do whatever we need to do to make sure that we get on board with this. It isn't ideal. I don't think anybody would argue the toss about that in terms of the short time scales to be able to deliver this. So I am fully supportive of this, and I do think it's something that we need to do. And the opportunities to draw down £4 or £5 million for areas which don't normally attract external grant funding is an opportunity that we shouldn't be missing. And I know, Leader, you said you wanted us to concentrate on the matter at hand, and I hopefully have done. But I just wanted some clarification, if we may do that. with regards to the fact with Clwyd South bid going in advance of the Clwyd West and Vale of Clwyd bids, which will be going in later in the year, that won't prejudice those two bids, because we've already had one on the table and hopefully approved. Because the spend date is the same, obviously, for regardless of when you actually apply. Thanks very much, Jim.
Thank you, June, for that. Yes, there has to be parity of approach across the authority. We do have 3 MPs from the same party, 3 constituencies. The Vale of Clwyd is quite straightforward in one way, isn't it? Because it's all contained within Denbighshire, and the Clwyd West is between Conway and Denbighshire. There will be ongoing conversations with both MPs to make sure that we utilise funding. But from our perspective, we need to assure all members that there will be a parity of approach across Denbighshire. Really important, so that we do not lose out by going ahead with this one by June the 18th. But it's the circumstances of the situation around this one is that we do have to go ahead with this one now. But we will take on board your comments there, Julian, and I would not expect there to be any losses anywhere else in the authority as a consequence of this. Thank you, Julian. Mark, please.
Leader, Graham here.
Sorry, Graham.
Can I just come in on that as well? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to that, I think you're right. I mean, the UK government guidance that came out in March this year made it clear that there'll be a number of opportunities to submit bids, and the first date was the 18th of June, but there would be other dates. We've heard recently that there's like to be another date towards the end of this calendar year. Clwyd West and the Vale of Clwyd, our other 2 constituency bids, we're targeting to submit towards the end of the year, that next gateway, and both MPs seem to be supportive of that position. And so there's no indication anywhere that I've seen that 18th of June bids will be looked at more favourably by UK government than later bids. So I've seen nothing that indicates that they would be treated more favourably, or that the later bids would be disadvantaged in any way. So submitting a joint bid with Wrexham for the Clwyd South should not prejudice the later bids for the Clwyd West and the Vale of Clwyd, just for clarity. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks for that, Graham. That's a good point. Yes. Mark Young.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. It's refreshing to hear everyone talk from different political parties and independents, and no one's gone political. We're all working together on this. That's great. Just a couple of questions. We've talked about the short notice and the extra work. It's just confirmation of officers that they've got the capacity to hit this deadline and future deadlines, because there's quite a bit of work here. So we've all said how important it is, but we all know how busy officers are. So have we got that capacity, and can they confirm that? And also, to signing off of the bid, is it the local authorities or the MPs who are signing it off? If you can just clarify that, and just the matrix of how these bids are going to be scored, so we can, we're going to be successful if we understand the criteria. Just those 3. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Mark. Graham, would you want to respond to that in terms of resource?
Yeah, please, Leader, if I may. Thank you. 3 issues there from Councillor Mark Young. I can ask Emlyn and Gareth to help me out a bit later on if I need to. Let me answer those 3 in turn. Capacity to hit this and future deadlines. Yes, we think we have got the capacity. It is very challenging, and we are working, Emlyn and myself and Steve Gadd and others are working to try and look at our staffing structures in order to be able to respond to this new funding, and having an eye on the Shared Prosperity Fund, which of course I mentioned in my introduction, that's coming down the line as well. So we're going to have to adapt a little bit to with existing structures to make sure we can handle what is new money, and with that comes pressures. As you say, we've been dealing a lot with cutbacks over the years, and with extra money comes new pressures. So I think we have got the capacity to handle that. The other thing is that the UK government have put some revenue money on the table. So I think we're guaranteed 120k of revenue, which will help us in terms of having additional capacity, staff stroke consultants to help with the development of the bid. So that will be helpful as well. So it's a bit of a work in progress. It is challenging, but we're confident we can deliver it for this deadline and for future deadlines. The signing off of the bid, it's clear it's local government. So it's local government needs to be the applicants. So in this case, of course, it's a joint bid with ourselves and Wrexham. So that means a signature from Denbighshire and a signature from Wrexham on the bid that's submitted to UK government. But in that application process, there are clear requirements to show that you're engaged with the local MP and local community. And the guidance is saying, you know, if you don't have the support of the local MP and you submit the bid, you're unlikely to get the support. So it's clear that it needs to be a kind of a process that involves all those that have been democratically elected in terms of the local members and the MP. So that's fine. So yes, to answer your question, Mark, it's signed off by local authorities, but with that caveat, you need to get your best chance of getting support from UK government, you need to show you've got support across the piece. And how will the UK government, what's their criteria for assessing the bids? We don't know yet. They haven't released a criteria or a kind of scoring matrix, so we don't know, but there is some information in the guidance of the sort of stuff, the sort of projects they're looking for, and they're in the kind of world of regeneration, etc. Can I, Leader, can I just hand over to Emlyn or Gareth just to add a little bit more meat on the bones, particularly with the last point around the criteria in the guidance that we've had so far? It's not necessarily about scoring the bids, but it's about guidance on what the bid should contain. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Emlyn or Gareth?
Yeah.
Emlyn?
Diolch, Arwyn. Yeah, just to expand a bit on that, the UK government's guidance talks about, in general terms, the way that they'll assess the bids that have been submitted. They talk about how deliverable the bids and the projects are really. So there's an element of assessing deliverability. And
Emlyn, lean i ffwrdd, please, Emlyn. Llen ni'n clywed ti. Go.
Sorry, apologies. Can you hear me now? Is that okay? Sorry about that. So I think I'll just go over the points. So I think the criteria is based around deliverability of the projects within the timescale that's been set. It also talks about whether the projects are fitting strategically with local priorities, local authority priorities, and so on. And it also talks about the projects offering value for money. But I think you know, we are waiting for more clarity really on the criteria itself. But that's what the guidance includes. I don't know whether Gareth's got any further detail to add to that. Diolch.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, just to say the other, you're right. They're the headings that the application will be assessed against. There will be a decision-making process and a scoring matrix, which we haven't seen yet. But the other consideration is the government are looking for a geographical split for projects. They're looking for a thematic split for projects, and there'll be some sort of prioritization criteria, which we're not yet party to. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, Brian, please.
Yes, thanks, Leader. I think, yeah, I'd like to say that Simon Baines needs to be congratulated on his efforts. He's grabbed it by the scruff of the neck. He's been very fortunate that Wrexham, as we've already heard, do have established projects in the pipeline, which will assist him in that little bit. I think we need to drop this tight time scale, extremely difficult to meet, and all those sorts of comments now, because in other arenas, the time scales that you got wouldn't be considered tight, and everything's going to be a mad dash and everything else. So we've flushed out the fact that we believe that it's challenging, etc. But I think we need to drop those comments now and go forward and get on with the job. On the Simon Baines submission, the Wrexham bid's probably on 10 foot of concrete. Whatever Denbighshire put forward towards that bid It won't compromise Wrexham if our bids for Corwin Station, a leisure, a retail offer or whatever we're going to do, and greening, town centre improvements, etc., etc., it won't affect the Wrexham bid. So on that basis, we haven't got anything to lose. We need to put the projects forward with the information that just gives an indication of what the project will be. It doesn't have to nail it down to the last pound, shillings, and pence. So we've got nothing to lose on this, and we just give it our best shot in the time so we've got. I'd like to ask Graham on his comment about project management. I think as an authority, and looking towards the north now and the Vale of Clwyd opportunity that's coming along, we need to know what the detail is of this proposed project management for the Vale of Clwyd bid, and that needs sorting out immediately, so you've got the maximum time to work with whatever mechanism you're going to use for project management, so that the bids that go in from the Vale of Clwyd will be sitting on that 10 foot of concrete. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Brian, for that. In terms of the Vale of Clwyd and Clwyd West, they'll be in a fortunate position of learning from the experiences of putting this bid together. And because of the tight time scale, the focus will have to be on this. Acknowledge that you're uncomfortable with some of the terminology, but this is local government, and we've had to adjust a reducing resource into what's really important, which I think the officers and the service has done. But in terms of the approach to the other constituencies, it'll be very much lessons learned from this particular one. And I'm sure that Graham and the officers will allocate the right resource required to make sure that those projects are delivered in an effective way. So I can give you that assurance. I'm sure that officers are aware of the potential of those bids, but we really do need to focus on this particular area now. Okay, Graham, did you want to add anything to that?
Only to say, Leader, you're right. We've obviously got to make sure we've got the appropriate resources in place. In part, it's project management. I think that's right, but it's also in part project development, and they're probably slightly different skills in terms of actually getting some ideas and how we start to get those ideas and liaise with communities, etc. Then taking those ideas through kind of project initiation into project management. So it's probably a range of skills, not just project management. But yeah, we're on the case, and we're working with it. And I'm pretty confident we'll have some good schemes to be submitted with in terms of the other two constituency areas later in the year. Thank you, Leader.
Okay with that, Brian?
Yes, Leader. Obviously, all I'm coming from is I don't want us to miss out on the Vale of Clwyd, and I want to make sure we got the ducks lined up so that we can give it the best shot, because end of the year sounds a long way, but we're soon approaching the longest day of the year, and the end of the year will come quick, as we all know.
Okay, thanks for that. Any other comments from Cabinet members?
Yeah, if I may, Leader.
Yes, who? Yeah.
I endorse what everybody was saying. You know, the view that I've got is that we need to make sure that there is pace on this, that we get value for money in all our areas, and that we are actually up for it. Not often do I agree with Brian Jones, so you can minute this if you like. But I'm sat here listening to Graham Bowes. And honestly, Graham, I'm wiggling in my seat, because it just felt as if it was going to be such hard work to try and get this funding, and we'll do our best. Well, this is an opportunity. You know, if I'm a member of the public who doesn't understand how local services work, it does come over a little bit like, God, this is really going to be tough, but we'll do our best, and we've got a bit of capacity, and it's been challenging times. You know, to the public, this is money coming to our areas. Let's get everything together, whatever we have to do, and make it happen. And I think that's the energy that I want to see from everyone taking this forward. Not that it's going to be a struggle. So I think, you know, maybe there's opportunities here to bring things into to invest in our areas that can benefit the council and its resources in the future. We need to look at everything and really peel back the curtains and make sure that we get the best value for our money, because these tickets don't come very often, folks. And we've got to make sure that we're focused and it's right and it's not wasted. Sorry, I'm stopped wiggling now.
Thank you, Hugh. There's no reason to wiggle in a seat, Hugh, because I think what Graham was highlighting is that the services had to adapt to a different way of working. And this doesn't happen overnight, but I am comfortable that the officers have adapted. It is a new way of working. We're here today with an urgent item on a comprehensive investment in a part of the authority. The normal lines would have been, we would have had a bit more of a consultation on it, a bit more planning, and it would have been a formal report. That's not the case. So, you know, we've adapted, even politically, we've had to adapt to make a decision on this one. But I can just assure you that we will be aligning the services to further projects down the line as well, and communication and consultation will be key on that. I don't know, Graham, if you wanted to add anything to that.
Please, Leader. Yeah, I take Councillor Hilditch's point. Obviously, I've just tried to give a bit of air of pragmatism and realism around some of the expectations. But what I would say is, of course, I personally, and I know the team, Emlyn, Gareth and the team are really excited about this. Of course, it's a great opportunity. I know some of the members have talked about that. We want to embrace that opportunity. We're really excited, of course. We've got any number of potential projects that we want to deliver. We want to work with our local members and our local communities. Nothing gives economic development officers and officers like myself more motivation than thinking about the potential of delivery of some things that can be absolutely really big changes. So of course we're really excited by that. So I take your point. I don't want to, perhaps my pragmatism and being a bit realistic about some of the challenges, I needed to let them on the table, but perhaps I haven't put across clearly is our enthusiasm to grasp this and to move on with it and to do all we can to deliver. So I just want to make that point. Thank you, Leader.
Okay with that, Hugh. Richard?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Thank you, Leader. What we've got to do is take a really positive spin on this. I think that's agreed everywhere. This is the Levelling Up Fund. This is about well-paid jobs with security. It's not looking small. It's looking a little bit bigger. It's not looking in a parochial way. It's literally very quickly brainstorming, spitballing some great ideas, and then remembering how positive this is, because James Davis, our MP, used to sit in that same chamber where you sit now. He has a really good grasp of local government, what we do, what we don't do, but then he's obviously sat at the big seat. So when it comes to let's have some great levelling up ideas, let's have something that's really gonna make a difference and literally be there for the next 50 years. Let's have him take that lead. Let's work quite collaboratively. And if it does just start with brainstorming and some great ideas, let's keep them pitched at the right level. Let's not just do what we've done for quite a while. Let's not do what we've done in the past. Let's not have that mindset. Let's have a more positive and collaborative one. And going fast and being brave, it's not a bad thing. You really can do that quite quickly and then just take forward the best ideas. I know it's different, but it happens in other places and we really do need to embrace it. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks for that, Richard. Okay, any other normal cabinet members are there? Fine. Okay, I'll come to other members now. Meirig, please.
Diolch yn fawr, Mr. Arweinydd. Diddorol iawn ydy'r newydd a gwych ynde bod ne gymaint o arian am ddod i ran o'r sir ar hyn o bryd. Beth bynnag. Yr unig beth sydd wedi'n haro fi, os a neb wedi sôn, ond Graham Timms, dwi'n siŵr bod Graham wedi dweud mai benthyciad ydy o, bod angen talu nôl. Fasa Steve Gadd yn gallu goleuo ni sut da ni'n mynd i dalu o nôl pen ddaw y diwrnod hwnnw lle. Diolch yn debyg i arian Ewrop yn acti. Arian Ewrop, grant oedd o. Oeddech chi'n dalu o nôl, ond i bai bod chi wedi cam wneud y gwaith, fatha rhyddlan y salwm.
Diolch Meirig am hynny. Fel dwi'n dall sydd ddim rhaid talu hwn yn ôl. Mae hwn yn pres sy'n dod yn bennaf i'r cymunedau. Fwrach by'n elfennau o gorau ffeindio arian i rhoid i adio i'r projectau. Ond na gofyn o Steve Gadd i rhoid ateb mwy manwl i ti na fedra i ar hwnna.
A ddarchod.
Steve?
Hi, thanks, Chair. Yes, just to confirm what you said, really, the actual money that's on offer from UK government is cash grant So that's great. How we fund the match funding element is obviously a mixture, and that might involve some borrowing, but it's that's not confirmed yet. I think at the moment most of it is actually coming from other grants and other funding sources. But yeah, the actual UK money is all cash grant.
Diolch yn fawr. Diolch.
Emrys?
Diolch Cadeirydd. Diolch fi. Ia, gael hefyd dweud, mae hwn yn swnio'n bod angen croesawu yr ariannu yma sy'n mynd i gyrraedd Clwyd, detholiad Clwyd, a maes o law gobeithio i orllewin Clwyd a Dyffryn Clwyd hefyd. Gai ofyn cwestiwn mwy ynghylch y broses mwy na'r cynnig ei hun. Mae'r exam wedi bod efo cynlluniau yn yr arfaeth ers oesoedd. Shovel-ready ydy term parod ein prifweinidog ynde. A mae swnio'n debyg bod yr exam yn shovel-ready ers tro a bod yr aelod De Clwyd, Simon Baines, wedi bod yn sgwrsio gyda'r exam ers tro. Mae ddiwch i mi, os mi'n swnio'n dipyn bach yn sinigaidd yma, dwi'n cael y teimlad falle bod yna botwm panic wedi bwyso rhywle naillai yn y swyddfa yn Sir Ddinbych neu yn swyddfa yr etholaeth bod angen sgwrsio hefyd gyda Sir Ddinbych ynghylch y cynnig yma. Achos mae'n swnio'n dipyn bach i mi fel bod o'n dipyn bach o afterthought o ran Dyffryn Dyfrdwy a Sir Ddinbych. Gofyn y cwestiwn ydw i, mae'r cynlluniau yna, mae yna frys, mae pawb wedi cyfeirio at yr alban frys yma, a dwi'n dall bod angen gweithredu yn gynt ag arfer efo ambell i brosiect fel hyn pan mae'r gynigion yn dod. Ond dyn ni yn gorfod rhoi cynigion i mewn, heb wybod hyd yn oed beth yw'r scoring matrix. Dyn ni'n gweithio yn y twllwch hefyd i raddau ar y cais yma. Gobeithio na fyddwn ni'n gorfod ailadrodd unrhyw beth fel hyn pan ddaw i yn geisiadau ychwanegol ar gyfer gweddill y sir.
Diolch Emrys. Y gwahaniaeth ydy mewn ffordd ydy bod yr ardal World Heritage Sites wedi bod yna ers ambell i flwyddyn bellach a sy'n ddim buddsoddiad wedi digwydd o fanna. So, llai weld ochr Wrecsam bod yna pwysau i buddsoddi yn y safle yna yn fuan fel ar ei Gareth Roberts dweud bod yna master plan o gwmpas hwnna yna ers ambell i flwyddyn rwan. So maen nhw yn hanesyddol mynd i fod yn mwy barod na ni. Ond y rheswm a fi gofyn wrth aelodau lleol i'r ardal, gofyn un o'r rhoi drwy adroddiad i'r cabinet, mae yna prosiectau yn Llangollen a hefyd yn Corwen sy'n eisiau dipyn bach mwy o manylion tu nôl nhw i rhoi yn ei lle. Fel da chi'n gwybod, da ni wedi bod yn gweithio a rhywbeth yn lle'r pafiliwn neu o gwmpas Station Corwen ers blynyddoedd a blynyddoedd. Felly mae hwnna yn barod yn ei lle, mae'r meddylfryd yna, a mae'n eisiau'r manylion.
The principles are there, we just need the detail. If we don't know what the criteria is, Wrexham doesn't know either what exactly the criteria are about what would win the funding for the committee. So there's no panic. The only panic is that Wrexham are ready to move in June and that we haven't been quite as ready as them, but we will be ready. There are projects, as we've just seen, there are projects in the areas in the south of Denbighshire which will be ready to invest in. And that's why officers have been working down there mainly. We will be at the same place as Wrexham if cabinet members are comfortable in supporting these recommendations. And also, I've just got to add as well that the MP, Simon Baines, is very keen to invest in Denbighshire. From the discussion I had with him yesterday morning, he was very keen to invest in the south of the county, which is part of his electoral ward. It looks as if we're playing catch-up because of the nature of the agenda and the nature of the report. But if we can overcome this hurdle, we will be part of the project with Wrexham after today. Thank you, Emrys. Can I come back in, please? Thank you. Yes, I hear what you're saying, Mr. Leader. Once again, totally supportive, and I like the ideas shared with us today for South Clwyd to link up with Corwen and beyond. that's an excellent idea, but I do feel, and I asked the question, when did you have the conversation with the MP? In the last week, or was it yesterday, as you just mentioned? Is that the first time you've had the conversation, or have these conversations been happening further back towards March, as it appears has been happening in Wrexham? I have a meeting with the Member of Parliament every month to 6 weeks, so it came up about a month or two ago. So it has been on the agenda, but the details haven't been as clear. As I said, this has only just been decided in March, and there is an element of everybody trying to work out how we're going to get this to work for the areas within our county. So we have been having the discussions for a couple of months, I would say. And in the past months, officers have been working with officers from Wrexham in much more detail than the discussions I've had with the Senedd member in the past month. So the Llangollen and Dee Valley MAG have also been aware of these discussions for at least a month, I take it. Members? Yes, Llangollen members have known about the Levelling Up Fund, and I don't know what discussion the MP has had with the local members, but they have been aware of it. I'm sure that the answer is available somewhere. Thank you very much, Mr. Leader.
Joan?
Thank you, Leader. I just want to make a comment and ask a question. My comment is, this is a wonderful opportunity to grasp it obviously with both hands, to be able to deliver projects and have it funded. And am I breaking up, Leader? Sorry, I seem to have an echo on mine. I'll just turn my camera off.
That would be helpful, Joan. Thank you.
Yeah, hang on, I've got to fiddle around. There we are. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I think this is a wonderful opportunity. Having the money to develop projects and to develop projects, I mean, we really should be embracing this as we are, I'm sure. Should we reach the criteria of any projects to have the funding there, I think we should be shouting it from the rooftops. But Leader, my question was, we keep saying contacting and speaking to communities. Will we be also speaking to our town councils and involving our town councils, because they have an awful lot of ambitions of projects, but of course only having small budgets, they very rarely bring any of their projects to fruition. And I'm wondering, will they be partners in this scheme with the county council and all the other partners? Thank you, Chair. Leader, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Joan. Well, as I referred previously, we need to learn from this experience, and the next two constituencies, there will be ample opportunity to expand on that consultation and discussion as well moving forward. Of course, we will have to work with the MPs. We're in the middle, but we are, as an authority, keen on working with our residents and town and community councils, aren't we? That's what we're about.
Indeed.
So I'd expect them to be engaged in the process along the way. That's what we stand for, and I don't see us moving away from that. But the dimension is quite different now, from Westminster right down to communities. It's quite a challenging one, but it's an opportunity, as we all say. Graham, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
No, I think that's right, Leader, isn't it? We will do all we can. I mean, our priority probably is to engage with our local members through the MAGs, etc. And I think that will have to be the priority. But clearly it makes sense to start talking and have dialogue with community groups, and of course the town and community councils will be part of that. So it's an evolving field, but yeah, no, we obviously we'll be guided through MAGs, I think, in the main. But yes, we will be engaging with our town, city, and community councils as well as appropriate. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
Arwel, please.
Good morning, all. Can you hear me properly? Yes, we can hear you, Erwan. Thank you very much. Can I give a message to Councillor Mary Lloyd Davis? It wasn't Rhuddlan who was in charge. It was the Rhuddlan County Borough Council, which included Rhyl, not just Rhuddlan, Mr. Davis. It was along the whole of the coastal area. Can you switch off your camera, please, Arwel? We heard the first part, but it's breaking up now. I was just mentioning that it was Rhuddlan Borough that was in financial difficulties, not Rhuddlan itself. I just wanted to remind Councillor Mary Lloyd Davis about that. I'm pleased that you've answered Joan's question positively. When Vale of Clwyd does receive this funding, that you will contact all the town and communities. There's been a tendency in South Clwyd that this is linked with tourism. Is that going to happen in other areas when there are projects put forward? Because tourism doesn't provide high salaries to residents living in North Wales. Is it possible for us to have other projects which brings in higher paid employment? Thank you, Arwel. We will have to consider as projects develop what exactly they are to be. As it happens in this area, tourism is the most specific thing and the most well established in the area, and there is place to do more about it. That it's going to be different discussion in your area and the Vale of Clwyd. So it's up to the members and the MP and the Senedd member to come up with projects that's suitable for the area. The projects developing are suitable for this particular area. I hope that not all the funding goes to Rhyl, as has happened in the past, that other areas outside of Rhyl require funding as well. I'm sure that the Member of Parliament is well aware of that, Arwel.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether I should declare an interest. I am on the Cadwyn Clwyd Local Action Group, and we have funded or provided funding to create highways. That was months ago. And this shows how ready the officers and the teams, the economic development teams in Wrexham have been. I would hope, because we have to work to deadlines by specific dates and there isn't all that much time, the bank holidays coming up, that there won't be any further decisions made as delegated decisions because of urgency of time. So I hope that that doesn't happen. With regards to resources, I'm sure that this is going to take up a lot of officers' time, or at least it should take up a lot of officers' time. Have they got the time to look at the economic development structure? As someone said, there is £125 million of revenue funding that comes with this. And we are now coming to the period of budget setting, aren't we, Julian? Somebody mentioned that officers have got to decide on their resources. Well, if it's financial resources, it is the members who make that decision. And we need to look at whether this department has got sufficient resources and sufficient money. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gwyneth. I can answer some and I'll ask Graham to come in on others. With regards to the delegated decision, if that's required in this situation, it'll be with the blessing of the local members, because this is local to the south of Denbighshire, this report. So if there's a requirement for delegated decision, it will need their support because they are mainly affected by this. With regards to adapting the service, well, that's an operational decision, and I know that Emlyn is looking at the possibility of adapting the service to move this agenda forward, because it is a new way of working and we have got to adapt to get the most out of this. But that's up to the head of service to make that decision, not us. If they need more money, as you say, that's a decision for the members. And if that's needed, we will see a report coming through from Julian to do that. I've been having this discussion with Graham Bowes for a month, 6 weeks now, asking them what resources are required, and he has been working on that. So between him and Emlyn, I'm quite comfortable in one way that the resources will be there to move this forward through the whole of Denbighshire. And that's the purpose of having officers in place. And I can't remember what the other one. Was there another question, Gwyneth?
No.
No. Thank you very much. Just saying that maybe I should have declared an interest. I will leave that with Gary, because I'm chair of the local action group for Cadwyn Clwyd, which has funded the 4 highways. I'm sure that Gary will consider that. Mary, did you want to come back with a question? Thank you very much for the opportunity to apologise to Councillor Arwel Roberts from the Rhuddlan ward. I wasn't trying to criticise his ward at all, more than I would about any other ward. I was trying to remember and not losing time. I was referring to Rhuddlan Borough Council, so can I please apologise to my colleague? Thank you very much. If you want to continue that discussion, please do it outside of the cabinet meeting. Thank you both.
Leader. Graham here.
Can I ask a question as Councillor Emrys Wynne? Just one quick question to confirm what I've heard earlier. Am I right to say that I've heard that there's around £5 million available to be spent in the Corwen Llandrillo area? Did I hear somebody saying that? I will ask Gareth to answer that one specifically, Emrys. What we're trying to get in these recommendations to agree on the bid. We're not totally clear on the amount of money available yet, but there is space to actually invest more in Denbighshire. No, I wanted to confirm the figure that I thought I'd heard so that I can write it down properly. Graham will give you a more detailed answer if he can at this point.
Thank you, Leader. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Am I coming across all right? just go back to Councillor Kensler's point first, if I may, and then we'll pick up on Emrys's point around the bid. Just a small correction, it came across on the translation that it was £120 million of revenue. It was £120,000 of revenue, just for the record, just in case members are making notes. So the UK government have put on the table £120,000 of revenue to go along with the bidding process for capital. So that revenue will help. And then the question was around resources. So I just want to kind of bottom that one out a little bit. So the first question is, what new resources will we need to take on this this new kind of process? Well, UK government are putting 120k on the table, so that will help in terms of looking at potential new resources. And of course, we have existing resources and existing staff, and I suppose it goes to the point that Councillor Hugh Hilditch-Roberts made around, you know, putting all hands to the pump, as it were, to make sure that we respond to this. So we've got an EBD team. So Emlyn and I in discussions around how can we maximise existing resources as well to take on this this new challenge and to maximise the opportunities for Denbighshire. So it's not necessarily a question of just putting new resources at it. We've got to look at our existing resources and adapt those and reprioritise those so we can maximise our opportunities. I just want to make that point on the issue of resources. So thank you for that. I'll just ask Gareth. Gareth, in terms of the emerging projects for the Dee Valley, what did you think the kind of total was that part of Denbighshire's bid towards the maximum of £20 million that could be submitted? And what did you think that so far Wrexham are thinking of submitting? So Gareth, can you just put some clarification on those figures, please? I know you've got those in front of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, last time I spoke with Wrexham, which was a couple of days ago, they were submitted, the total of their bid was around 10 million. And in terms of our bid in Denbighshire, we are up to 4.1 million, but that's without including the replacement for the Corwen Pavilion. So I've only recently had some information on that last night, so I need to go through that. So 4.1 million plus whatever the cost of the potential Corwen replacement is. So around about 5 million, I guess.
So Gareth, and just to confirm that, of course, it's a joint bid. So in the end, it's not a Wrexham bid and a Denbighshire bid. It's one single bid, of which the Wrexham part of the bid will be approximately 10 million. And I suppose if ours is anything between 4 or 5 million kind of level as a joint bid. So if you added those two together, it's about £15 million towards a maximum of a potential maximum of 20 million that the government have put forward for each constituency. So hopefully that's fairly clear, Leader. Thank you.
Williams, Gary, last speaker. Hello, Gary, are you there? You might be... Gary, you might be on mute, Gary. Oh, yeah. We can't hear you. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Leader, his screen is showing that he's not on mute, but you can't hear his audio for some reason, I'm afraid.
Tell him to take the earphones out then.
I think he'll need to dial out and dial back in.
Okay, I think it's important that we receive the advice of the monitoring officer. If Gary's going to try and come back, is he? Okay. Well, we're very close to, if Gary can come in pretty quickly, we're very close to finishing this now. If we can get the recommendation out of the way and get to the agenda, it'd be helpful. If Gary,
Leader,
yes?
Graham here, just while we're waiting for Gary to dial in, I think it would appear that the members have been able to ask the questions that they wanted to. So, I thank them for that. Just as we're waiting for Gary to come back in, we're looking at potentially some sort of briefing for the whole of the council on the Levelling Up Fund. The details to be decided, but watch this space. It'll either be part of a council briefing session, or we'll set up a special workshop for all members to be invited to, where we can have a discussion on some of the details that have come out today. But that discussion's been really helpful. Thank you, Leader.
Yeah, it has been a good discussion to have, and I welcome the positiveness from members to try and support this and move it forward, and acknowledging, this is a different way of working, but what an opportunity. The potential investment for Denbighshire is really significant, and it will make a massive difference to those communities. So we need to just grasp it with both hands, which I know officers have done, and hopefully when we move the recommendation, it's game on for that part of Denbighshire, and then we'll move on to the rest of it. I can see, Gary, you're there now. Can we hear you now, Gary? It's like the Eurovision Song Contest here. Can you tell us what your voting is, please?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, this will be very underwhelming after the wait. It was just to confirm in respect to Councillor Kensler's question about declaration of interest. My advice would be it would be no more than a personal interest, and we'll record it as such.
Okay, right, I'm on. Thank you for that, Gary. Right, we'll come to the recommendation now. 3.1 of the report, that Cabinet provides delegated authority to the Corporate Director, Economy and Public Realm, and Head of Planning, Public Protection and Countryside Services in consultation with the Section 151 officer, Head of Legal, HR and Democratic Services, and the leader to agree a bid to be submitted to the UK Government from Denbighshire County Council in partnership with Wrexham County Borough Council for the constituency of Clwyd South. This will be following discussions with the local Dee Valley members. I move that recommendation. Will someone second that, please?
Happy to second, Chair.
Julian has settled it. Thank you. Are there any Cabinet members against that?
No.
Nobody? Okay. Can I thank you for the conversation? We've moved the recommendation, and thank the local members for participating in the debate as well. Okay, thank you. Do you want a 10 minutes break? We will have a 10 minutes break. Okay, thank you. Here was that. Okay, thank you. Welcome back. We'll start. Agenda item 4 are the minutes of the meeting 27th of April. First of all, for accuracy, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, and page 9. For matters arising, page 5, page 6, page 7.
Chair, just on page 7, just to confirm that on the bottom bullet point, I did get back to Councillor Davis regarding a Scotland buyer.
Okay, thank you, Julian, for that. Page 8 and page 9. Somebody propose the correct, please? Mark and Richard. Okay, everybody in agreement with that one. Thank you. Agenda item 5, external enveloping and energy efficiency framework for council housing. Councillor Tony Thomas, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Here today, along with my officers of Dave Lowry and Glyn Forsdick, but we're seeking approval on our next 4-year housing improvement framework to maintain and upgrade our housing stock to both corporate and Welsh housing standards. We have a stock of around 3,400 houses. Previous funding has been to around 350 homes of this stock. We're very innovative with projects, for instance, on retrofit project with Welsh governments, which integrated solar panels, increased internal wall insulation by external access, installation of battery technology. Indeed, we're one of only a few authorities doing this. Our recently expired framework has delivered 4 successful programs of work. The new framework would deliver a significant community benefit to local economy and include apprentice and training opportunities.
Tony, Tony, sorry, can you switch the screen off? You're just cutting off there a bit, please. Sorry about that.
Okay, I hope this is better. Having the new framework in place will make us ready to take up any future opportunities that come Denbighshire's way. It will cost around 10 million in approximately 4 equal lots. The first 2 lots have been surveyed and an estimate value of works is 2.5 million per lot. I think at that point we can answer any questions. I don't know whether Dave and Glyn would like to supplement what I've said, please.
Thank you, Tony. David, Glyn, do you want to add to that?
Hello, yes. Okay, so hello, I'm Glyn. I work for the housing development side. So the works have been surveyed in line with the Welsh Housing Quality Standards. The work is predominantly required to ensure the integrity of the buildings, to ensure they are weathertight, and also to improve the aesthetics of the buildings. We created a number of schemes over the last several years to improve our standards. The work will significantly improve the thermal efficiencies of our homes, raise the SAP ratings, which are the EPCs, in line with the corporate target. The current programme has benefited from major Welsh Government retrofit funding, which has allowed us to install additional measures, including solar PV, battery technology and external wall insulation. We hope to deliver future schemes using this funding over the course of the framework, which will shortly be available from the Welsh Government, we are led to believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Glyn, for that. Okay, I'll open up to cabinet members for questions, please. Mark.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, great work. And I just want to touch on the energy efficiency and obviously fuel poverty. When the solar panels or something similar goes on these properties, because this has been asked before, who benefits? Does the council collect the benefit and then pass it on, or does the resident of the home? Just confirmation on that. The rest, really good work. Thank you, Leader.
Glyn?
Sorry.
Go on, Glyn, it's okay.
Sorry. So with regards to the solar PV, the main benefit is to the tenant with the reduced on-grid electricity supply required to the property. The installation of the battery technology harnesses the energy in the day, so we're now in the position where PV isn't necessarily just required, isn't just benefited through the day, it can now be used during the night time now as well. The former fit tariff, which is the feed-in tariff, isn't available any longer, so the council won't really benefit from any significant income in that respect. So yes, in answer to the question, the main benefit is to the end user, i.e. the tenant.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair, it's Dave Laurie. If I can just add as well, it sort of expands on Glyn's answer a little bit. What we are doing, Mark, is I think when we've got a better idea of the likely longer term funding that's going to come from Welsh Government and also perhaps what the council itself, what the HRA is able to invest, we will probably, and well, most certainly be looking at mechanisms for some sort of return on the energy that in effect we're providing. It's just, I think we'll probably need to have some advice on how that mechanism might work, whether we directly charge or whether it's it becomes part of the overall rent. So it is something we are going to have to look at as hopefully we get more and more of this funding coming through.
Okay. Just a quick one on that, Leader, for me. Obviously, some authorities in the UK have set up energy companies via cooperatives. So I don't know that answer today, but I hope we look into that if possible, because that seems a benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for that. Do you want to respond to that, Dave?
Yeah, that'll be one of the options that we do look at.
Okay, good. Thank you. Bobby?
Hi, this is not a question, really. It's just to say well done to Glyn and the whole housing team, Tony as well, as the lead member. I think the job that's been done on our housing stock is amazing. And I mean, I live in Ruthin and I can see what improvements have been done there. I'm not saying there's not more to do, but what has been done is exemplary, and well done to you and all the team for what you've done towards improving our housing stock across Denbighshire.
Thank you, Bobby, for that. Brian?
Yeah, it's a quick one from me, across the board question really. How are you keeping in touch with developments in respect to green energy? Have you got the links in to the right departments, to the right avenues to pick up on what's developing? And I'm going to jump ahead here now. Have you given it any thought to the day when green energy is available, which will be pumped into houses through the existing infrastructure? I believe that can be done, or will be able to be done. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but any thoughts on that? So how are we keeping in touch with developments in the big wide world out there that can affect the energy efficiency of the housing stock? And hydrogen green energy, which is bubbling up, are we in any account now for when that day arrives?
Okay, Brian, thank you for that.
One, Leader. Yeah.
Tony?
I think we must be doing quite a good job, because as Welsh Government, after poaching an officer on secondment for 18 months to meet this net carbon zero. So Welsh Government must be thinking that we're in the right frame of resources for doing this. So they're very keen to get one of our officers.
Thank you, Tony. In terms of Brian's question there, Dave or Glyn, are you able to expand on that?
Yeah, fine. I mean, I think in terms of keeping up with what the latest developments are, yes, officers in housing are. We're in dialogue with Welsh Government on a regular basis. We have our development architect who looks at these schemes for us. Obviously, she's well abreast of what's going on. There are numerous and sometimes conflicting seminars, advice from Welsh Government, advice from all sorts of places. But yeah, we are keeping on top of what's happening. In terms of the grid, I think corporately, pleased to say that we do buy all the energy we buy, all the electricity we buy is produced from renewable sources. With housing, it's a little bit different, because the tenant has the responsibility and the choice to go with any energy provider they want. So I think that would form part of the work that we'd be doing in response to Mark's question earlier, in terms of setting up some mechanism for becoming a provider ourselves. And again, in terms of the gas network, again, a lot of sometimes conflicting advice and thought on hydrogen. At present, it takes energy to produce, although I am aware that there are some hydrogen-ready gas boilers available on the market at the moment. Whether we go down that route is something that we might have to consider in the next couple of years. As it stands, the majority of the stuff that we're looking at in terms of the retrofit will be our off-gas properties anyway, because that's where the biggest benefit comes. But yes, we are. The short answer is we are keeping on top of what's available and what the most current advice is.
Okay, good. Thank
Can
you.
I, sorry, could I just add a little bit about the hydrogen aspect? Worcester Bosch Boilers, who are the manufacturer we currently use at the moment, have, as Dave mentioned before, have developed a new boiler which is hydrogen ready. It's not actually out to market at the moment, but it would appear that the boiler will be ready before the infrastructure allows it. So an awful lot of work has got to be done nationally to improve the infrastructure before hydrogen boilers will be mainstream in the housing stock, unfortunately. So I think that's more of a long-term plan, but certainly the boilers that are coming out to market will be hydrogen ready within the next 5 years, apparently, so we are informed.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you for that. Just one question from me in relation to the risks. The first bullet point on the risk is legal challenge in relation to the procurement process. Is this just a standard risk, or is that risk highlighted because of this particular framework?
It's just a standard risk. Standard risk with any procurement exercise you are open to challenge. So yeah, it's
All
in
right.
there because it's standard.
Good. Okay, that's good to know, and a bit of a relief as well. Okay, is that from cabinet members? Yeah.
If I could just come back on the hydrogen without drawing it out and becoming a bore, I've only picked up the information through sitting on meetings with cleverer people than me, and to quote the example and why I've risen it, I suppose this afternoon, this morning, wherever we are, the hydrogen boiler, the Welsh Government will be looking for pilot schemes. And the nice sound that's around the chops.
Right. Could I put the screen off, Brian?
Sorry.
Could you mind putting the screen off?
Yeah, screen, yeah. I don't know how much you caught there, but yeah, apologies for elongating this out into what might sound like a bore. But Welsh Government at the moment, they're doing a project down in South Wales with a hydrogen hybrid bus. And so I sat on a meeting listening to all that and the technical details of that. Then it come up about hydrogen into houses. The point I want to make is the Welsh Government shelled out money for a project in South Wales on hydrogen hybrid buses. We need, what can we do to be in the best place? If there's pilot projects for hydrogen boilers in the housing stock, we want to be on the front line, don't we, to grasp any opportunity there. And obviously officers will know how to get best place for that. But don't want to miss the opportunity, because obviously it'll be a big thing for the climate change agenda.
Okay, thank you for that, Brian. Is there any response from officers on that?
I can respond, right, Leader. There is an organisation called HyNets, which is it operates, it's Flintshire, Deeside, and the Northwest, which are really one of the top-notch people in the organisation, sponsored by Westminster and that. And the hydrogen in housing in Denbighshire, there's no chance of that happening before the mid-30s. Because it does, then their region doesn't go as far as Denbighshire with their pipelines at the moment. So we will be a little bit behind the game on that one.
And that's the point. What are we going to do to push that? Because why should we be behind? You know, we're virtually touching North East Wales, the Mersey Alliance. We should be getting in there and making the representation, because these boilers will be about a lot sooner than the date you just quoted there, Tony, most definitely. So we need to be in on the game.
We can try, but I mean, you're talking billions here, like, you know, to get that sorted with as they go west. But we would be first on the list going west. It's a project that will go that way, but at the moment it's all where the industry is at the moment, isn't it? And you know,
yeah, I accept that. Yeah, but they want to use the gas terminal off Point of Ayre to store all the green hydrogen, or as one of the areas. But anyway, there we go. That's enough for this conversation. As long as we keep our eye on the ball,
Yeah, thanks for that, Brian. In terms of the recommendation, the point that you make might be beyond our control at this time, but I'm sure officers will be aware and be prepared to adjust if the opportunity arises. But the point's been made, and I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you. Okay, any other members wanting to comment on this? No. Okay, good. Can I ask Tony to take the recommendation, please?
Yes, Leader. The recommendation is to approve the use of a framework to deliver the required improvements in line with the housing stock business plan.
Okay, that's been moved. Someone second that? Bobby second that. Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Nobody against, is there? No. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Tony. Agenda item 6, reactive maintenance framework for schools and non-schools properties. Julian, please.
Yep, thank you very much, Leader. As I'm sure everyone will be aware, we every year we have a rigorous program of reactive maintenance on both our school and non-school stock. We've been utilising a framework for the last 4 years to deliver this, and it's due to be retendered in order that we might test the market. The tendering exercise will be based upon the usual sort of mix between cost, quality and areas of expertise, and the work would continue to be allocated via the help desk within property. The intention would be to let the framework on a 2-year +1 +1, so a maximum of 4 years again under this particular framework. You'll see from the report that the annual spend is somewhere in the region of around about £2 million, which is why Cabinet need to approve going out to the tender and approve the final framework once that work has been done. The tender documents you will see attached in your packs. Essentially, the works will be broken down into 6 lots. Different types of work, and then subsplit by north of the county and south of the county, with the intention that 5 contractors would be allocated to each lot within the framework. A suite of KPIs would be incorporated to ensure value for money and quality of the work being carried out. And essentially works up to around about £10,000 would be dealt with by means of a direct award, and above 10,000 would be a mini tender within those companies on that lot of the framework. Hopefully that's pretty straightforward. As I say, it's come here because of the size of the contract. I've got, I think Dave's still on the line. So if there are any questions, by all means, but I think that's probably all I needed to say at this point, Leader.
Okay, thank you, Julian, for that. Are there any questions from Cabinet members? Brian?
Yeah, if we could, Leader. Yeah, apologies, Julian. I've asked you this question in years gone by and you have answered it, but I'll ask it again. I do get challenged by local contractors. On the 1 to £9,999 direct award, what check have we got on that we're getting for value for money? Because it's a direct award, so is there a paperwork trail, a breakdown of the cost on that, or do we just say there's 10k, go and fit repair a door with a new set of hinges, £10,000?
Would you like me to respond to that, Julian?
You can. I mean, I was just going to make a general point, but I'll ask Dave to answer the specific about it. Yes, you're quite correct that up to £10,000 would be on a direct award. It would be a direct award to one of those companies within whichever lot it was that the work fell under. So they would already have been through that element of screening to make sure that they were a capable company and they were working effectively. The KPIs that we'd have in place would monitor the value for money and quality elements, hopefully, of the work. I mean, clearly there is also, for these very small things, as you say, a school needs a new door, we're not going to go through a great convoluted process of finding somebody to do that. We will make sure that somebody who is on the appropriate lot and has demonstrated quality and value for money are one of the ones that actually do that. But I'll ask Dave to take you through the actual mechanics of how that's done.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. And it's just a bit of an extension of what you said. To answer your question, Brian, in reality, what tends to happen is we get an awful lot of high volume, low value works through that, as Julian said, we couldn't tender each one. So by going through the framework, we've tendered up front in essence. But in reality, what happens is with even reasonably high valued works, we would very rarely, I think, issue a job for, say, I don't know, £8,000 without doing some sort of mini competition within the framework. What the benefit it does give us with being able to go up to that value on direct award is if it is a case of a real emergency, we just simply have to get the work done. It does give us that opportunity to give a direct award. For example, if we've got some sort of roof collapse or something, we can just get guys there to sort it out and make it safe without having to go through some sort of, well, not some sort of protracted mechanism, but without having to go through a separate procurement exercise.
Yeah, okay with that. I said I'd ask the question, and I've asked the question. Happy with the answer, and that will do me for the next 12 months. Thank you.
Hopefully it'll do for the next 4 years, because we won't be retendering it next year.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from Cabinet members? No. Other members, questions? Oh, sorry, Emrys. Yeah, Emrys.
Thank you very much. I have been waiting for this item. Can I refer, please, to Denbighshire County Council's Welsh language policy? I'm looking at page 55, item 2.1. I'll read it as it is, and then I'll tell you my story.
However, any submissions made in the Welsh language will, prior to evaluation, be translated by Denbighshire County Council from Welsh to English. Y brawddeg nesaf sydd ym mhoeni fi.
It's the next sentence that concerns me.
In relation to any wrongful, inaccurate or errors in translation into Welsh. Mae'n ddrwg gen I, dydy hwnna ddim yn rhoid y Gymraeg yn...
Sorry, that doesn't make Welsh equal to English, which is the policy that's meant to be. I'm asking whether this committee will agree to take that sentence out entirely. There's no need for it. Denbighshire County Council should have enough confidence in their translators to make sure that the translation is correct. If that is included, and if I was a contractor and between two minds whether to submit my application in Welsh or in English, well, that would go against doing it in Welsh, because I would be a little bit concerned because there's lack of confidence in the correct translation. We use professional translators and it should be correct. I'm surprised to see it there under the current situation where a bilingual county, and Denbighshire County Council is proud of the fact that it is bilingual. There's further reference to that on page 59, paragraph 8.1.1. And I think we need to ensure that they correspond to each other. Thank you very much, Emrys, for raising that point. When I was reading it now, I felt maybe because there's a third party involved that we needed to cover it because of that. I'm not sure whether that's why the reason it's in. I'll ask Gary to come in on this, if he can provide an explanation on that paragraph, please. Thank you, Mr. Leader. I think you are correct. The sentence is included to safeguard the council against any inaccuracies by the translators, and they are external translators working for Conwy. We're not trying to stop contractors from giving submissions in Welsh, but I do understand Councillor Emrys Wynne's point. I will ask our legal team to just look at the wording again to check whether that needs to be kept in or whether it can be worded differently. Can I come back? Thank you very much for the response, Gary. There have been contracts in the past where in any area now, and in Welsh and in English, and in the conditions you see the sentence.
The English version will apply os oes unrhyw fath o contention efo ynghylch
The English version will apply if there's any contentious issues about the contract. That's disappeared from the conditions. This is bordering on being that again. So I'm hoping that the solicitors who discuss this with you will agree that there's no need for that sentence. If we haven't got the confidence in our translators' accuracy, we need to find other translators. And I've finished up on that point. Yes, I'm quite happy for us to look at the wording and consider whether it's necessary to remain in the document or not. But I'm not going to answer the question definitively now. I'm going to take advice from the solicitors. Thank you, Gary. Okay, Emrys. So Gary's going to look at this, Emrys, and look into it in more detail. Thank you. Thank you, Emrys, for that.
Are there any other members wanted to come in on this? No. Okay, thank you. Julian, can you come to the recommendation, please?
Yes, of course. The recommendation is to approve the decision to re-tender to ensure the council is receiving best value from its maintenance contractors. Sorry.
Okay, that's been moved. Someone second that? Mark, yeah.
Second that, Leader.
No. Okay, everybody in agreement? Nobody again. Okay, thank you for that. Agenda item 7, finance reports 2020 to 21, financial outturn. Julian, please.
Yep, thank you very much, Leader. This is a report on the outturn figures for 2020 to 2021, and it's been brought forward in terms of the timescale this year. I'm sure most members will be aware that the year-end close down has been brought forward for this year in order to deliver that. And as such, we've been able to bring forward the outturn figures to May's cabinet. It normally comes to us in June. The headline figure, which I'm about to heavily caveat, is an overall underspend of £9.457 million. The vast bulk of that relates to school balances. That's just over £7 million. I'll give some context on these figures a little bit later, but I just want to assure members at this point we don't suddenly have vast sums of excess money available to us, and this is sort of one-off cash and not capital or anything along those lines. I just want to pick up and go through a couple of areas for you in specific detail out of the report. The first one, obviously, given the last 12 months, relates to COVID. And I'm sure we'll all be pleased to see from the report that we will be able to meet all of the 2020-21 additional costs and income losses from the various Welsh Government funds that have been available to us. And we would hope that any losses that run into this financial year, for say the first 6 months, would also be able to be accommodated within that. To date, we've received just over £19 million of external funding to support us. We've got claims outstanding amounting to a further £2.7 million. And for the purposes of the OUTTURN report, that it's assumed that that £2.7 million will be paid. In terms of schools, as I say, you'll have seen there's been a significant improvement in terms of our financial performance with regards to that. The carried forward balance into the new financial year is a surplus of some £5.67 million, which, as I say, is an improvement of around about £7 million as we came into the year with a deficit of just shy of £1.4 million. Now, the reasons for that are numerous, but primarily relate to one-off funding from Welsh Government, which has been received during the course of the year. And of course, a significant amount of one-off savings from the fact that schools, for much of the 12-month period, have been closed or only operating in a very restricted manner. And that's obviously, it's one-off, and it's obviously something that we wouldn't want to be repeated, but obviously it does generate a significant amount of cash saving in year. As we usually do, we break down the school balances by school for you, so every school figures that are contained within Appendix 3 to your report. So you will see this year, because of the reasons just given, some significant movements in the majority of schools within the authority. The improvements has put for summer schools, whereby in one specific year maybe they incurred costs, which meant that their balances were put into deficit, but on the year-on-year trading position, they've since then they've been okay. It's been allowed those sort of schools to improve their position and go from a deficit position into a surplus or break-even position. Should be said, much of the additional funding is committed to getting schools back after COVID. But turn to corporate budget, which is the other significant area of underspend, just shy of £1.9 million. Again, this relates to Welsh Government funding that's come in during the latter part of the financial year. Welsh Government have funded us for our shortfall in both council tax and the council tax reduction scheme, but most of that underspend relates to a one-off grant of just over £1.6 million, which is specifically for the pressures of reacting to COVID. And that's been applied to cover overspends in other service budgets, which are not covered by any of the other Welsh Government funding sources that have been available during the course of the year. And maybe where we'd thought earlier in the year that we would have to fund those amounts ourselves. That has enabled us to do a couple of things and make a couple of recommendations in this report. It's enabled us, first of all, to top up the budget mitigation reserve, which we have had to utilise this year. And that will help us fund the Investor Save scheme, which we're developing as part of the new budget process, funding pressures, or indeed, if the need requires, helping us to balance the budget in future budget rounds. It also allows us to allow services who have got underspends to carry them forward into 21-22. Appendix 1 in your report shows the breakdown of that, and Appendix 2 summarises the main service proposals. And you will see from those in Appendix 2 specifically that many of them relate to delayed expenditure, which was originally planned to be carried out in the last financial year, but due to COVID or staff being redeployed into other areas has had to be delayed, or in putting into place some temporary capacity in order to help the service to catch work up. Appendix 4 in the report is also one that we normally bring to you, which is the summary of movements into and out of specific reserves within the which have been set up within the authority. Most of these are referred to in my normal monthly monitoring reports. The significant ones there, obviously, are the additional £7 million in school balances, around about £4.5 million increasing in the capital schemes budget. So that is grant funding that we've received for approved capital projects, which we haven't as yet spent. So they're obviously still in our account, but they're obviously committed funding for that particular project. I think that's probably a very quick canter through. I think that's all I wanted to highlight. I'd ask Steve if he wants to pick up anything that I've glaringly missed, or set me right if I've said something incorrect.
Thanks, Julian. Just very quickly, as usual, Julian's covered almost everything. Quickly, the reason I brought this to the May's meeting, yes, going forward, when we actually achieve the early close down date of 31st of May, this is the proper month that it probably should come. But also it now fits in with the annual performance report, which is actually there is a finance section in that. So I'm having to include the figures in the annual performance report, which is going to corporate governance, governance and audit committee next month. So I thought it was important that it came to cabinet before it went to governance and assurance committee, because obviously you need to approve the proposed use of reserves, etc. Just on the close down, it is a struggle this year. We're trying to do the group accounts. Well, this week we should be receiving the accounts of Denbighshire Leisure, and then we have to incorporate those accounts into our accounts. So we have actually decided months ago and agreed with Audit Wales that we wouldn't try and achieve the 31st of May this year. There are very few councils in Wales that are trying to achieve that date. So, and Audit Wales are happy with that because of their resources are stretched as well because of the continuing COVID. And I suppose just two things to stress about the report, really. The figures look high, but it's, as Julian has mentioned, it's the movement is schools, really. The position for services is largely as I reported last month. There's a couple of services that have increased their underspend slightly, but nothing out of the ordinary. And as you say, if you look at the reserves appendix, it does look like there's a big movement. But again, the two big movements are schools balances and these capital schemes, which we had for both reasons, really, just the unusual amount of Welsh Government funding we received at year end this year. We always receive an element of that, but this year was a lot of funding announced very late on in the year that we've had to account for correctly and make sure everything's in the right place and accounted for. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you both for that. I'll open up to questions. First one, Tony, please. Tony Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Thanks for that report, Julian and Steve. Yeah, the school balances look extremely healthy this past financial year. However, there is one exception, which is the new school Christ the Word in Real, which started off the financial year with a deficit of 410,000, and that's increased by another 15 this year. Okay, not a great deal. But as you know, Christ the Word replaced Uscal Meyer and Blessed Edward Jones, and I gather at that time the debt then was written off, was in the region of over 700,000. So we're at a point now where there's that money gone, and this new school is now 425,000 in debt. For example, prior to me becoming a county councillor, I worked for a school in Denbighshire, and that school was also heavily in debt. And as a result, they asked for 4 staff redundancies, of which I was one. I took voluntary redundancy, although I didn't get a payment or anything. So I would like some reassurance that we're not in this position, that this debt is going to cause any staff redundancies or anything like that, please. And how, could I have an answer? How has it become so big? And there's a lot of money gone past over the last 3 years. Thank you.
I'll take this, Julian, if you want.
Okay, I was just go on, Hugh. You do it. I'm sure you'll answer better than me anyway.
Actually, when you look at the figures, Tony, I suppose it is quite alarming when you see the figures on the sheet. But actually, Christ the Word is not really a concern in terms of finance at all, as they're filling up pupils' numbers in year on year. And what's happening is you don't get a funding for the pupils until the following year. So what we expect in Christ the Word over their 3-year plan is that by 2023-24 they are budgeted to be 584,000 over budget. So potentially we could be asking them to spend more money, and this is because of the money we've had from Welsh Government and the actual savings that they've been making as well. And to give you some context, they're still carrying over the effects of Blessed Edward Jones to a certain extent, because currently in year 10 there's only 52 pupils, and in year I think 11 is 68. And in the next 2 years that figure will almost double in both the areas. So you're talking of near 100 in those years. So then we will have had a full cycle of all the school years, which is going to make a huge difference. So I'm more than confident we will see the deficit halve for next year. We will see then there'll be over budget about 75,000 in the second year, and then in the third year it'll be 584,000 roughly was predictions. So we really see it in a really healthy position. My challenge, I think, on these figures is that St Bridget's and Denby High are a bigger concern on the finances, and that's where we're looking at the moment, and we're doing that work because their numbers are down and therefore will have a knock-on effect. So it's a thumbs up for Christ the Word, and then it's a bit of work to do on Denby High and St Bridget's.
Okay, thanks, Hugh. Julian, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just very briefly, Hugh has summed it up perfectly. It was just to confirm that obviously in terms of Christ the Word, as it was legally in new school, essentially it started with a balance of £0 and 0 pence on day one, but he was obviously had a full staffing complement. You can compare it, although the numbers with this being a high school will be a lot higher, when we opened the Ysgol Cladd offer in Prestatyn. For the first 3 or 4 years, as the numbers build up and the payments are made a year in arrears on the figures from the previous year, essentially, it does take for a new school 3 to 4 years for them to get out of that initial situation that's not their fault, because they start off with essentially a zero balance.
Thanks for that. Okay. Tony, are you sure with those answers?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby?
Yeah, just quickly, Leader, thank you. I just wanted to once again pay tribute to the finance team. I'm sure when Steve Gadd took over his job, he wasn't expecting either COVID or Brexit to dominate the first 18 months of his new promotion. But I think everybody involved has done a good job in making us confident that our finances in Denbighshire, at least, are secure and in good hands. But I just wondered, some businesses and some individuals are not going to recover and not recovering so well into the future. Some people's lives will probably be bleak. And I just wondered if there's anything coming forward in the future, and I do realise Welsh Government have provided substantial funding along with the UK Government to help through this crisis. But for those who are not so fortunate, is there anything likely to come forward in terms of funding for them?
Thank you, Bobby. I'm not familiar with the detail of further funding support during the COVID period. I'm not sure if Steve's got anything to add to that, if he's got additional info on that.
Yeah, they're still finalising the scheme, but there is going to be a scheme to help businesses. The aim is from Welsh Government that it's a lot more focused. So actually it'll be Emlyn's service that will mainly be administering it, and we're going to try and support them through the RevLens team for the admin side, but it'll be more around an actual claim based on proof, etc. So try to be a bit more targeted, I think, is the new scheme. It hasn't gone live yet, though, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Yeah, just back to the schools again. Obviously, I think I need to say Councillor Hildish Roberts.
Brian, you might have to.
You're breaking up, Brian. Yeah.
Can you switch the screen off, please? Thank you.
I left it on purpose. I was paying Hildish Roberts a compliment, and I didn't want you to hear it, Leader, but I'll do it now. Yeah, Councillor Hildish Roberts, he's obviously got his hand on the tiller with the position with the schools, and that's good news. And obviously, I was a bit of a critic of Ted's as it was, and now it's Christ the Word. So that's reassuring to hear that he's got that high level of confidence that Christ the Word will return to a better position. The question is, how are we going to communicate? Are we going to communicate this out? Because at first view, it's bad news, but as Councillor Hildish has explained, you know, the pathway to a better set of things is there. So how are we going to communicate this out to the residents of Denbighshire and beyond?
Thank you, Brian. Well, I think the key people, are you relating this to the schools now?
And in particular to Christ the Word, that actually it is on the upward curve, it is good news, and it's not, which at first view in the report paints a not so good picture.
My understanding is that there are teams of finance officers working with schools who at some point did cause concern, and they do have plans to getting those schools out of the concern status. So I would expect that school and the governing body are particularly assured that the authority supports to get them to a better place. And I think that should suffice in terms of sharing our expectations for those schools. So there is already a good foundation of communication going on between the authority and the schools, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there is a school in financial difficulty, there is obviously a meeting that is held with the business officers and finance, and we develop a plan over a 3-year period to bring them back out of that. You know, I think we are very good at communicating with our schools, and I think that's one thing. You know, finance is one thing. There may be standards issue. We're good at communicating. You know, some of the quality of the staff in Denbighshire is that because we're close to schools, we're able to identify problems before they happen or as they happen, and then work with them to secure it. And I'll give you an example. At the beginning of this cabinet, about 4 years ago, when Julian brought a finance paper, I'd always get a question on finances, and one of them was a school in Hyfryd in Rhythm, which was 800,000 in deficit. And I explained to you then about it was because of the investment in some redundancies, that it was also investment in the infrastructure of IT for that school. We are sitting in a position now today is that Ysgol Bryn Hyfryd are now in a surplus. And that is a real evidence of that our systems and finance and the team of Steve Gann have worked to bring that school back to where it should be. Now that's clawing back from £800,000. So I think our communication is really good, and the teams that we have are doing a really sterling job. And I think we've only got maybe 10 or 12 schools in financial difficulty, as you would call it now, compared to other regions. I think we're in a far better position.
Thank you, Hugh, for that. Okay with that, Brian? Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, Leader. Thank you.
Nicola?
Yes, thank you. I was just going to add, along with what the lead members just said, obviously with Christ the Word, you know, not only are we working with the school, but also with the governing body, with the diocese, with GWER. So it is a partnership approach, but there is clearly a plan and we're confident in that plan. Diolch.
Thank you, Nicola, for that. Okay, any other questions from cabinet members?
Just a quick one on this, if I can, leader, please.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, just to make the point, obviously, Denby High. So working with Steve and his officers, the balance is 457. It was predicted to be around 700,000. So everyone working together has reduced that. So it feels like it's going the right way, and I've got to say the support of the authorities has been great. Some of this debt is historic, but it's definitely getting better, and I think working together we're a good place, all of us. So it's just to recommend and understand the work what has gone in from everyone. Thank you.
Tony, did you want to come back?
No, thank you, leader. I'm struggling to get my hand down. Sorry, I'm trying to raise hand down, but I can't get it down.
That's fine. That's okay for that, Tony. Okay, any other cabinet members? No. Okay, just to add to what Bobby was saying about finance officers, really, it's been a nearly impossible task getting to where we are today with the planning for this, and it's been quite assuring sitting on the budget board with Steve Gadd and some of his team in terms of the planning, their thinking, and how they're dealing with this. It's been a one-off year to a certain extent, but also I think we need to appreciate the work that Welsh Government in terms of how they've worked with us on this through the LLJ, and to be able to sit with the Minister for Local Government on a nearly weekly basis throughout the summer and autumn in order for them to appreciate and understand the challenges that we face has been a massive breakthrough for this year. And hopefully that will continue after the elections as well, because they have never been so interested in local governments. They've appreciated and depended on us and for a lot of the things that have happened through this difficult times. And Julie James has been really very clear in terms of her support and her appetite for working with us. Hopefully that will not be lost and it will continue. But I think that point needs to be made at this stage. Okay, any comments from other members? No. Okay, Julian, can you take us through the recommendation?
I think Gwyneth just put her hands up.
Sorry, Gwyneth. I've been policy. Okay, Gwyneth.
Can I just add to what you've just said? I think that during this COVID period, it's been apparent how effective local government is, and central government have ignored the importance of local government in the past. And when central government, whether it's in Cardiff or London, talks about reorganisation and so on, and how I think that larger authorities are better than smaller councils, we will consider how central government has depended on local government throughout this COVID period. Thank you. Thank you for that, Gwyneth. And I agree.
Please, can you take us through the recommendation, please?
Yes, I can indeed, but just before I do, just to add one more thing that Steve probably didn't expect, whilst we're praising Steve and his team, just to add one more thing that he probably didn't expect to have to deal with, was having no chief accountant for most of the time that he's been in post as well, so he's been doing double duty. So, thank you very much for for that. I'd also just like to point out how things do change, because this time last year, potentially we weren't going to be looking at, regardless of whether it's all through schools and external, we were looking at significant overspend potentially if we didn't get the support from national governments of both in Westminster and in Cardiff, and we would have been in a very different position without that. So I think we do have to recognise that fact. So the recommendations are 3.1. that members note the final revenue outturn position for 2020-21. 3.2, that members approve the proposed treatment of reserves and balances as described in the report and detailed in appendices 1, 2 and 3. And 3.3, the members note the details of transfers to and from earmarked reserves as set out in Appendix 4.
Thank you. Do you want someone second that?
I'll second that, Leader.
Richard, to second that. Everybody in agreement? Nobody against, is there? No. Okay, good. Thank you for that. Thank you, Julian. And agenda item 8, Cabinet Forward Work Plan. Gary, please.
Thank you, Leader. Can you hear me there?
Yes.
Okay. Since the publication of the Forward Work Programme, there have been 2 items added to the next meeting on the 29th of June. They are a report to seek approval of the policy relating to mental health in the workplace and a report seeking Cabinet approval of the domestic abuse policy. 2 items that are currently on the Forward Work Programme for the 29th of June have slipped to the 27th of July, and they are the replacement LDP revised delivery agreement and COVID assessment, and the replacement LDP report back from the 3rd strategy consultation. So they will now appear on the programme for the 27th of July.
Okay, thank you, Gary, for that. Anything from lead member to add to that? No. Okay, we acknowledge that report. Thank you, Gary, and thank you all members for your attendance today and contribution. Really enjoyable cabinet, and I hope you look forward to the weekend because it's going to be sunny. So enjoy the rest of the week.
Hooray!
I shouldn't have said that.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.